Or- And go ahead.
Is it okay if I share my screen?
Yes.
Okay, let me see. I believe I have permissions.
There we go.
And I can go into slideshow mode. Okay, can everyone see this?
Yes.
Okay, so I do apologize. I think a few months ago I sent a different message about Voiceburg public transportation. Um, and we're a coalition of many organizations across the Bay Area fighting for a regional public transportation funding measure to ensure that people can get around everywhere in the Bay Area accessibly, affordably, and competitively with cars. Since I sent a message a while ago, I think some things have developed in that space where we have learned that n none of the North Bay counties will be included, so that includes Solano. So I did have a chat with Rita, and we talked about maybe presenting another thing that is relevant to the county. So I kind of wanted to give an overview of some policies and different measures that we can do to make trends in the Bay Area more accessible for everyone, regardless of where they live. So I just wanted to check with you, Julia. Does that sound all right?
Excellent.
Okay. And then also, I just wanted to do a time check because I can be pretty wordy and I want to respect all of y'all's time. So
So if we can keep it to about 10 minutes of a presentation and then we'll do questions and answers afterwards.
that sounds lovely. Okay, that is very helpful for me to know. Thank you. So yes, as Julia said, hi, my name is Kaleo. I use he, him pronouns, and I work at Seamless Bay Area. We are a 9 county-wide nonprofit group working towards making Bay Area transportation world-class, convenient, and accessible and affordable for all people. And I was pleasantly surprised by the conversation you guys had earlier. Like, I love hearing the lively conversation. Sometimes I show up to meetings and it's dead silent. So I'm very excited to hear all the questions y'all will have for me. So if at any time during the presentation you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand, get my attention somehow, and I can answer them. So yes, actually the slide is a little outdated because it's my standard deck, but to give you kind of an overview of who I am and who my organization is, we are that nonprofit, and we are working to transform the Bay Area's fragmented and inconvenient public transit into one that is unified and widely used. And we do this by building a diverse movement for change and promoting policy reforms. And I think the outdated part is usually I have a proposed action to adopt a resolution supporting seamless transit, but since we're working on a whim or on a fly, we're gonna ignore that for today. So I just kind of wanted to give an overview of kind of the state of current Bay Area public transportation as a grounding exercise, and then to talk more about what policies we're advocating for. So on a regional level, in our 9 county Bay Area, we have 27 different transit agencies, and we identify this as the large problem within our transportation network. Um, with all these different agencies, there is very little integration between services. It means that fares are often duplicative. So if you take multiple agencies, you have to pay double. And often scheduling barriers persist because agencies do not work to align when buses, trains, and ferries all align together. And we can see how harmful this has been for our region in terms of transit ridership, which lags behind many other regions, both in the US and internationally, with similar population densities. And also, we see how this has led to an inefficient use of money. You know, we spend billions of dollars on transportation every year, public transportation and freeways, and we haven't seen this increase in ridership as many other regions would. So identifying those problems, we really see a need for addressing all those concerns I talked about. So making sure that fares are coordinated and affordable for everyone, making sure schedules are aligned to decrease overall travel times, and increasing the amount of service that areas, including Fairfield, Dixon, and Vallejo get. And then also, we need a new source of sustainable funding for all these agencies. So yes, this is kind of repetitive, but we envision our region as one where someone, say, from Vacaville is able to get to Fremont very easily and time competitively with driving. And yeah, while we live in this really high tech, very resource dense area of the country and of the world, we see that transit has not been keeping up with the needs of Bay Area residents. These this data is kind of outdated, but during the 2000s and 2010s, while our population has grown, we've seen that transit ridership, bus speeds have decreased, while people who, are typically drive have seen that their commute times have increased. And, at my organization, we really see three pillars that are really needed to make our transit system better. So, at a base level, policies and all the ones that I've mentioned earlier, and I'll dive a little more into reforms to our institutions so that we can get policies done quicker and also more cost effective. So, that means more regional management of our transportation networks, and then also, as I'll talk about later, a new sustainable source of funding for all these agencies. I will go through this one quickly to respect 10-minute limit, but we have worked with legislators in the past to introduce legislation that tries to address these issues. And yeah, one of those pillars that I mentioned was governance reform and institutional changes. And one thing that we really see as being key to fast tracking all these great initiatives to make public transit uh, more competitive with other modes is what we call a transportation network manager. And we see this in a lot of other areas, both domestically and internationally, that have successful high ridership systems. But this is not how we currently operate in the Bay Area. I like to use the analogy when I'm out tabling, like our transit agencies kind of work in silos, and every once in a while they'll pop their heads out to see what the other agencies are doing. But that's not the way it should work. They should all be sat down together, making sure that their systems are well coordinated. And a new institution that is empowered to do this can really accelerate progress. And this is a lot of information. Basically, what you need to know from this slide is these are some international examples of areas that have these transportation network managers or regional transit coordinators. Actually, oh, there it is. Okay. And you can see a lot of these other systems have high ridership. And in the Bay Area, a lot of those responsibilities that would be at a regional level are mostly made at a local level. And all of this difficulties with our transportation system really came to light during 2020 when COVID lockdowns were in full swing. And we saw, justifiably nosediving of transit ridership. So elected officials across the region really came up with this plan to accelerate some of these reforms I've been talking about. And they have released this thing called the Blue Ribbon Task Force that's seeking to address these issues. And I will kind of go into a summary of progress on these various initiatives. So one of these initiatives, just to get off the bat, is working on coordinating service. And in this slide, I'll be talking about mostly fare integration. So one successful program that was launched starting in 2022 is the Clipper Bay Pass program. And Clipper is the transit card that you use to pay for transit. And this pilot rolled out to let anyone take unlimited amount of trips on transit if you pay a flat fee. So it's like you pay $50. This is not real. I'm just giving you an example. You get to ride unlimited amounts of transit. And we've seen that this has been successful in increasing transit ridership. So amongst a randomly controlled experiment, increased ridership by 40%. And also we saw 74% more interagency transfers when people have access. The second phase is currently being rolled out to employers, and it is so extremely popular that there is a long wait list. So they had to increase the amount of people that they're testing this on from 20K to 80K. Um, this slide is also outdated because our region has been working on free and reduced price transfers. So when you go, say, from Fast in Fairfield to maybe Soltrans, you get a free or reduced price transfer up to 250. This was supposed to roll in the spring. Honestly, it's supposed to be rolled out for many years, but it's been delayed. So they are hoping to roll it out this summer. Fingers crossed, don't quote me on that. If you're watching this recording in the future, I hope it's done by then. And then lastly, identifying some of those schedule coordination issues, transit agencies have voluntarily opted to do this 2 times a year alignment of their schedules. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to give an example because I think a lot of this can be like esoteric. And I wanted to show like what a regionally integrated fare system can look like. And this is kind of a brainstorm exercise we've done at my organization. But the idea is, regardless of where you're traveling, we could do it by a zone-based system, which is popular in many other countries. And you're charged based on how many zones you pass through, regardless of what like system you use, regardless of like how many buses or trains you take. It's just based on distance. So I have an example here. Say you're traveling from Vacaville to San Francisco. Under our current system, you would take 4 agencies, you would pay $16. And under a model that's more equitable and affordable and makes more sense for an average person, you would pay $10. I also want to give an example, maybe a cross-county trip. So say if you're going from Vallejo through Sassoon, Fairfield to Rio Vista, currently it costs 875. A different system could cost 520, and it wouldn't matter which agency is to get there. I realize I'm running past 10 minutes, so I'm just gonna run. I'm running through these slides. Um, uh, in the Bay Area, we're also working to make updates to Clipper. So now, hopefully this summer also, you'll be able to pay with your credit and debit card, and you won't need a Clipper card. Our region's also working on unified signs and mapping, like to make transit easier to navigate for people who may not be as familiar with the system, or, with 27 different agencies, that can mean a lot of different signs for each of the agencies. So they're working on rolling out integrated and unified maps. I believe one will be rolling out to Solano late this year, but I can get more information on that to present to you guys or to send via email. Another important thing to speed up buses is transit priority. So this means physical infrastructure upgrades. So bus only lanes, maybe transit priority signals. So when a bus comes, they go faster. And in San Francisco, we've really seen how this has spearheaded recovery of transit. While the system-wide was lower than pre-pandemic levels, all of the lines that have been higher than the system-wide ridership have had transit priority treatments. And this means more people in transit, less people in cars, less traffic. In terms of planning, one model that we could base this off is Switzerland, where they have clock face pulse schedules, which means like every 30 minutes, a train will get to a station and they will give people 5 to 10 minutes to get to connecting bus services. And this is just to reduce that like irritating feeling when you get off of a bus and you just missed the last one, so now you have to wait 20 minutes. So this is something that we've been advocating for in our region. Um, the Bay Area has also been working on better coordinating how our infrastructure projects are built. In the past, it was just kind of like everyone I think mocks, a large transit station opening that costs multi-billion dollars, and there's no service there to actually service that stop. So our region's kind of working on this new model that's focused on frequency and alignment of schedules rather than just big fancy stations. And in Solano County, I pulled this out from the plan. In Solano County specifically, they're looking at near-term improvements to increase Soul Trans frequency and also a new express bus service on State Route 37. Transit recovery has been sluggish in the Bay Area, mostly because of return to work, but we've also seen this across the country. And we know that transit is important for meeting our climate goals as it reduces greenhouse gas emissions from cars. But also, I think as many of you guys were talking about earlier, many of our housing goals cannot be met without public transportation. It is just the most geometrically feasible way to move a lot of people and not increase traffic. So, as I mentioned, transit ridership is down, so our region is working on a new sustainable source of funding to keep our agencies running. Starting next year, there will be major budget cuts at BART, AC Transit, Caltrain, Muni, and many other small operators, and they are in the works for a regional funding measure. Unfortunately, as I said, this does not include any of the North Bay counties, and that's why I'm not presenting to you from Voices for Public Transportation. But I just wanted to let you all know that there is an effort in the five other counties in the Bay Area. Um, Currently, my organization and many others are working to include Santa Clara and San Mateo in that, and they're currently have the option to opt in. And I just want to include this slide because often people say, oh, public transit is so mismanaged. And while I don't disagree that there are opportunities for cost savings, it's also important to put this in context that the Bay Area transit agencies receive significantly less funding from state resources than many other high ridership successful agencies. So we see in systems like SEPTA in Philadelphia and in Boston and in New York, they get much larger share of funding from the state, whereas BART only gets 5%, and most of their money comes from fares. And that is kind of what put us in this mess. And we see from polling constantly that voters in the Bay Area, all nine counties, want to see better public transportation because they know it's better for their wallets. It is critical to our housing and climate goals, and also no one wants to sit in traffic, myself included. So yeah, this is all kind of wrapped up in what we call our seamless transit principles, and these are principles that were developed by a coalition of nonprofits and state, regional, and local decision makers to really guide how we plan and implement public transportation reforms.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, so Solana is actually in a fun, weird position. We do have a seat on MTC that is currently being held by somebody who does not value public transportation in any way, shape, or form. So we would like to change that as a club, but that's not where we're at right now. So one concern is that MTC, to take one example, has historically shifted money from Solano County to the Inner Bay Area. How do we make sure that we're not a donor county with a regional transit manager?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And a lot of the concerns that we've been hearing from Santa Clara and San Mateo, two counties who have more wealthy tax base, is the similar issue of like, well, we generate a lot of money, we should be seeing that money come back, and that is 100% reasonable. Um, I think the conversations that I've been having at a regional level are about return to source. So, while we identify that all of our transportation sol issues can't be solved at a local level, like if you're making a bus lane that goes from, say, I don't know, I'm just going to say Oakland and Berkeley because that's where I live. Um, you can't, you need to work to make sure that each city doesn't have a way to stop it. So, um, I guess that's roundabout to answer your question. Um, Money, it seems reasonable that, counties that give money to a regional entity should see most, like a majority of that funding come back to them.
Yeah. I mean, with the proposal, is that going to be a regional tax again?
Yes, so the regional measure will be a regional tax for participating counties.
Yeah.
So
Um,
Alameda, Contra Costa, San Francisco, and then potentially San Mateo and Santa Clara would get taxed, and then the North Bay would not be part of that tax. So they wouldn't get taxed and they wouldn't get any funding from that tax.
yeah, because the way that I would see it is that a more broad-based support and funding for that. Because when you look at BART's funding, it really is mostly fare-based and regional funded, almost no state, almost no federal. uh, and that it isn't it is not sustainable, especially when, quite frankly, you do have people from other areas using the services. um I'm curious how or if Amtrak slash Capital Corridor figures into all of this. We do have stops in Fairfield, Vacaville, and Sassoon, so that is generally a route of choice to get to Richmond, Berkeley, Oakland, San Jose, or San Francisco and Sacramento as well. We don't have well, Vacaville and Fairfield is kind of one stop, but go on. Sorry.
Oh yeah, to answer that question, I think like Capital Corridor, I'm from Sacramento. I take Capital Corridor all the time when I was a student at Berkeley to travel between campus and home, and nowadays just to go visit my family. Um, in Capital Corridor, in most of the planning conversations that happen, is not included in these like schedule and fare-based coordination strategies, which in my mind is a major tragedy because we know that we live in a mega region where people go from, say, Solano or Sacramento to the Bay Area and vice versa. Um, I know that there are other initiatives in, say, Marin and Sonoma where they are really working to make sure that the smart train that they have now that runs between the counties is very aligned with their local bus services,
Mhm.
seeing it almost as a backbone. And that's, from my perspective, that is how Capital Corridor should operate. They should be forced to collaborate with the local agencies to make sure that buses and train schedules are aligned. But that is not what's currently being done. So,
With so many interested in expanding transit, are there plans at all to extend BART from SF to Sacramento?
yeah, that's a great question. Actually, I saw a tweet recently where someone was saying, my cousin just landed in the Bay Area, and they're like, how do I take BART to South Lake Tahoe? And I think the answer to that is I think most of the conversation that is being held, and I think this is where I would land on it too, is that instead of running a new service from San Francisco to Sacramento, I think we already have a great service, Capital Corridor. We just need to make sure that there are improvements to that service. So making sure it comes more frequently, making sure that transfers to San Francisco directly are better aligned, and then also making sure that the right-of-ways are straighter so that the train times are actually competitive with driving. So I don't think there is a need for BART to Sacramento, although I would love that. Um, I think improving Capital Corridor would be a good alternative.
One of the big rail bottlenecks is the Martinez Rail Bridge, and one of the key infrastructure issues. Can your advocacy group help advocate for state funds for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So oftentimes when agencies and there is a joint powers authority that is in charge of this infrastructure project, they are actually considering building a new bridge to kind of alleviate that bottleneck. So that's a great question, Tony. Um, my advocacy organization often does get requests from transit agencies to support their projects. So, for instance, a few months ago, we got a request from SFA Ferry to get a federal grant to expand their zero emissions electric fleet. Or I think we actually have got a request for Capital Corridor as they're trying to do stuff in the South Bay to improve. So the answer is yes, we are interested in that topic because we realize the Bay Area is important, but also connecting to the Sacramento Valley is important.
Well, I think it goes beyond that because, quite frankly, Solano County itself is is a commuter county. Most people who live in Solano are either going to Sacramento or they're going to the Bay. I think it's something like a quarter of the people live and work here. So like take my husband who takes BART every day, but drives across the bridge to get to BART. So, you do have quite a bit of that, like what could be a lot of crossover. And then how do the 27 agencies work together? So with the regional manager, and would they share funding, or would it just be more about fair and timing alignment?
That is another great question. That's why I'm so glad that like y'all were so chatty before because these are spectacular questions. So I will say currently, how do they work together? They have been doing a lot of voluntary efforts to work more together. Um, as I mentioned, like sync their schedules twice at the same time every year is a voluntary action. Um, or even for the free and reduced price transfer thing that I mentioned earlier, in order to get all of them to participate, we had to go through 27 different transit agency boards and get approval. Yes, 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 yes. So it took a while. But to answer your question about how do they share funding, currently there's very little funding share. Um, Agencies often raise local taxes through, say, a parcel tax or sales tax, and that's what operates their own system. There's very little revenue sharing, although there are some what we call regional measures that have been passed. So, say, for instance, um, bridge tolls are often collected by MTC, which is our regional entity that manages the transit agencies. And most of that money is not used for what we call operations or running service, but it's used for infrastructure projects. So that is how current cost sharing works. And yes, I don't know if that answers your question, Rita.
Well, just more so like under the vision that you're talking about within like the zones, would that be more of fair sharing? I mean, that feels like it would take quite a bit of negotiation.
Yes, the answer is yes. I can give like a real world example. So with the free and reduced price transfers, so imagine a situation where you're taking fast and you want to transfer to Soul Trans. Um, you would pay the full fast fare and then you would get 250 discount on Soul Trans. So obviously Soul Trans in that situation would be like, hey, what the heck? We just lost 250. So the way that MTC operates this program is they would raise funds through this regional measure that we're talking about. And I know that doesn't include the North Bay, but I'm just giving a hypothetical. And they would disperse that to transit agencies to reimburse them for that lost fare revenue. So say like BART specifically, BART, a lot of people transfer from other agencies. So they would probably lose a lot of money from the system. So at the end of the month, MTC will say, how many people transferred to BART? How much money did they lose? We're going to reimburse you that.
Okay, that's actually good. So public transit appears to be a catch-22 in within ridership. Ridership is low because it doesn't come often enough. It doesn't have convenient enough stops, but it doesn't come often enough, get more stops, etc., because there's no ridership. How do we resolve these problems? I know. Would you like me to give you the task of world peace as well?
No, that's a great question. Honestly, I'm thinking of making a presentation like this for my friends just to give it to them because I could talk about this all day. But to answer that question, it totally is like a catch-22. In my policy area, we call this the death spiral, right? Like you cut funding for public transit, and then don't run as much service, and then people say, "Hey, service is crappy. I'm gonna get a car if I can afford one, and I'm gonna drive." And then that leads to lower ridership, it leads to less money, and this is why we call it a death spiral. Um, and I think, in this situation, we have to realize that public transit is a public good. And, if you run it effectively, it solves all these traffic congestion, climate, housing, all these goals that we have as a region. It solves them if we do it effectively. So it seems regressive to get funding for public transit from fares because that often hurts low income people the hardest. So one thing that my organization and the Voice for Public Transportation Coalition advocates for is a progressive tax to ensure that those that have the most means in the Bay Area are able to support those that ride public transit, and we can lead to not a death spiral, but to a virtuous cycle of increasing ridership, more fare revenue, more people on public transit, more support, and then that could eventually lead to more federal or state funding. So that is the trajectory we are trying to get on.
So are you thinking like a property tax or more of an income tax, or something like that? Maybe
Yeah, there are a lot of ideas rolling
estate
around.
tax.
An estate tax. There are a lot of ideas rolling around. The one that is popular right now is a gross receipt tax on big business. So I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't even know what that meant until I heard what it was and did research. But essentially what that is yeah, all the money that a large corporation or big business would raise, say above like a $20 million threshold, uh, all those companies that make that much money, they would be taxed, say, 0.1%, and that money would be used to fund transit. And we see that as a successful model in New Jersey, who recently did a similar measure, and they not only prevented all the budget cuts that they were expecting, but they were actually able to expand a lot of New Jersey transit with the revenue raised.
Interesting. Um, Special tax on billionaires buying lots and lots of acreage. Okay. So we'll do this one as our final question because, quite frankly, I could listen to you talk for hours, but we won't do that. So, why are the North Bay counties not being included? Is it because our voters did not support tax measures? And I know the answer to this, but I'm going to let you answer it.
You know what? I think you might be able to answer that better than me. Um, I don't remember the results from the polling. So MTC did do regional polls of how voter sentiment was across the region, and they also did it on a more micro county by county level. I can't remember the North Bay results.
So we originally rejected BART funding. We have since rejected public transportation basically every single time it comes up.
Okay,
So
I think that's the
sorry,
answer.
guys. This is on us.
Well,
No, but like
to
I
be fair,
think
you rejected any sort of transit tax, so
We do.
transportation.
The bridge, the gas, all of it. We I think a couple of them were close, but yeah, overall our county does reject the taxing.
yeah. I'll say like from my perspective, I get this question a lot. I was just in I was in Nevada earlier at a farmer's market and people were like, "Why are we not included?" I'm like, "How long do you have to talk to me?" Um, but I think like the question that I always come back to is political will. Like I think a sales tax is always going to be less popular than say something that taxes the 1% or very wealthy Bay Area businesses. So, if politicians, across our region had the ability to advocate for such, I think transit funding would become immensely more popular in the North Bay, San Francisco, East Bay, Peninsula, South Bay, everywhere.
Yeah. No. And quite frankly, it's a car county. And so because they don't have like I do find that buses tend to be a little bit less reliable, trains tend to be a little bit more reliable. People tend to prefer doing the trains over buses, and largely what we have within county is buses. And so people don't appreciate the need. I'm not going to say see the need. I don't think they appreciate the need. So
Yeah, and if I just may say one thing, and that is if you have to drive from here to Concord to get on BART, I mean, you're in traffic. So I think that's part of it too, right? People
yeah.
don't see it as, well, you're in traffic anyway. So yeah, just my
Yeah.
2 cents.
Well, thank you very much for coming out. I mean virtually, but still, thank you so much for giving your presentation and all of your amazing information.
Thank you so much for having me. You all seem like a lovely group of people. More than glad to always talk about public transit or anything. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey,
Okay,
Kaleo, I was going to say, could you put your contact information in chat if people want to reach out to you?
Oh,
yes,
yes,
please.
of course. So yeah, I have just left my email, so feel free to send me messages.
Excellent. Okay, well, we will go ahead and continue on with our meeting. We're going to start with the minutes. I will briefly share them, and then we will go ahead and launch the poll. This is just going to take me a second. I did not change the dates on the Zoom poll, so if everybody can bear with me as I do this very quickly. I would not want everybody to say the wrong dates. So the minutes are from two. Okay. So we'll go ahead and stop the share. And launch the poll. Thank you, everyone. We will end the poll and share the results. Thank you, everybody, for passing the minutes. Now we will go ahead and move on to the agenda. We do have one item from the floor. Are there any additional items from the floor?
I have an item.
Hi, Jacob?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that you who's talking? Oh, wrong one. Stop share. Oh, excuse me. Agenda. Okay, Jacob, you have an item from the floor. Anybody else?
I have one as well, Jeanette.
I do apologize.
This is Dwayne. I think I do also, but just for information.
You are right there.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else? Going?
May
Yeah.
I
You
add
saw
my
my
name to the
hand,
list
right?
really quickly?
Yes.
I'm sorry, what?
Petero, may I add my name to the announcements from the floor, please?
Announcements? Yes, ma'am.
I mean, no, just items from the floor, please.
Items from the floor.
Thank you.
We're having a fancy night of items from the floor. Anybody else? I can't see anybody's hand, so if you are raising your hand, just speak up and let me know.
Did you get my name, Julia Jeanette?
I do have you. You
Okay,
are after
okay.
Jacob. Okay, sounds good. I will go ahead and put this out for a poll with the additional items from the floor. So go ahead and vote on that. We'll give everybody a few seconds. And then we're getting close. And we got a couple more, and we'll give it a couple more seconds. And poll. Thank you, everybody. We will go ahead and move on to our next item on the agenda, which is officers' reports. I just want to thank everybody who came out on Saturday to Margie's house. It was beautiful. We had such a good time. I want to thank Jeannie and Nancy and Margie for putting the whole entire thing together. They did an amazing job. I cannot do anything without them in general, but this event was all them. So I just want to give them a heartfelt congratulations and thank you from me, from everybody. And Kai is not here. He just wanted to say it was great to see everybody. And then next on our list is Rita. Do you have anything you'd like to say for your report?
I'm just sorry I missed it. Something came up and I wasn't able to be there, so I apologize for that. I did have something that I wanted to mention. J.D. Vance is putting out the theory that citizenship or being an American is based on heritage and land ownership, and I'm waiting for the Native Americans to start deporting us all. So that's
Yay.
where we're going to be going with this.
Okay. So next we have Mohammed. Do you have anything for your report?
No, but stay tuned for next time.
Okay, you got it. Dawn, let's go ahead and display the treasurer's report. And you can give your presentation.
Thank you. We had started with a beginning balance of $17,368.10. Dues and contributions in the month of June of $597. Our expenses in the month of June, $236.10 for website services that included domain registration renewals and software licenses and all that other fun stuff. Coffee and snacks for various events, $123.72. Event supplies and printing, $36.47. And of course, our Act Blue fees for total expenses of $410.54, leaving us an ending balance of $17,554.56. As of which is Friday, we had 119 paid members. I think we had one come in after that, including 31 sustaining members. Do want to remind those of you, and Julia, my apologies, has the list that we should be sending out to you of those that we have recorded as paid for 2025. If your name's not on the list, either you have forgotten to pay or there's a miscommunication between your checkbook and our records, and we want to clear that up to make sure you're showed, because our allotment of delegates to vote on endorsements in the state party process next year depends on our number of club members, and it's one for every 20 members. So, and the deadline for that, the count for our roster is July 22nd. So I really want everyone who perhaps has been a little tardy in paying their dues to next week, so we have as many names on our roster as possible and can have a goodly number of votes to vote on endorsements next year. So again, that information should be coming out within the next day or two to confirm your status as a paid member for 2025. And if you're not paid, please do so. And if you are currently paid, I would like to encourage you to sign up for our Dem Action Fund and donate on a monthly basis so that we have the resources to do the things we need to do next year to support our local candidates, such as the postcards. We've talked about doing postcards for the primary as well as the general. And we've also talked about expanding to doing text banking and other outreach opportunities. That takes money. And I'm going to politely and not so politely ask you to contribute what you can afford to do. So that's what I have for the treasurer's report. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Let's go back to the agenda. Okay, club business, steering committee report. So we had exactly one item on our agenda for Friday night, and that was the interview of Dr. Nikki Parr for the appointment of the SCO superintendent. She is also running for that election in 2026. She has officially declared. There are 5 candidates being interviewed on July 23rd at 4 p.m. Each candidate gets 40 minutes of an interview. Then the public each gets 2 minutes to speak as they wish. The candidates cannot respond to whatever you talk about. And then the board will be deciding that night who the appointment is for. Whoever is appointed will be the incumbent come 2026. It's one of the reasons that I personally get very frustrated by these early retirements. I know a lot of people think that they are due to some sort of wrongdoing or something they're trying to get out of. Normally, that's not actually why they're retiring. They're retiring so that there's an appointment process so that there is no open seat. And so 4 people get to decide, not the whole county. Anyway, that being said, on July 29th at 6:30 p.m., barring any emergency city council meetings at Sassoon, we will have 2 Sassoon council members, council member and the mayor. So Alma Hernandez and Jenna Lee Dawson will both be speaking regarding their vote on the annexation. So they have been they have been warned that is the topic that we are talking about. So each person will get 30 minutes to give a statement and answer any questions that we as a club have. So this will be by Zoom. It will be recorded. I will put it on YouTube and send it out to the membership as a whole. I have already posted Dr. Nikki Parr's interview on our Facebook. I will be sending it out to the membership shortly. I have a summary but that I was going to send with it, but I would like some extra eyes on it before I just like willy-nilly put words in people's mouths. So because it is not a transcript, it is me just summarizing what was said. And then but yeah, so that should be a really interesting meeting, and I think that everybody who can attend should. So that being said, the next club business that we have is discuss Bill SB 627, No Secret Police. This was a bill that came up in e-board that we were talking about. Is this something that we actually want to go through and endorse? And since it was something that we were contemplating endorsing, we have it on the agenda. That being said, I went through this text in the summary, and in essence, what it does is it does not allow for law enforcement officers to wear facial masks unless they are part of SWAT, or for safety reasons like gas masks and N95s. The problem is that this is aimed at ICE, but it does not apply to ICE. Federal law enforcement agencies do not have to adhere to California law. And quite frankly, there is no way to enforce it. So I am personally disinclined to endorse this particular legislation just because it doesn't have any teeth for the people that we would actually like it to have teeth for. And what it does do is annoy our local law enforcement. So any conversation on that? Yes, Audra.
As a retired law enforcement officer, and one that I was a special agent with state of California, I can tell you that a lot of local law enforcement agencies and the ones that are, we'll say, good reputable ones, they have rules against wearing face masks to hide their identities in the first place. When I was with DOJ and all of our task forces, we were not allowed to wear face coverings when we did field operations. Even those agents like me, when I worked undercover, we were not allowed to wear face coverings when we did even entries and things like that, because it was for our own safety that we couldn't wear face coverings. So just throw that out there.
Okay. Anybody else want to add?
I was just going to say that it's purely symbolic, really, in a way, which a lot of the legislation that the Assembly puts forth is, just to say we don't like this, and I get the point that it doesn't really. We don't have any authority over ICE or any DHS or whoever they send out. I don't know that it would necessarily antagonize any of our local law. The people who really are professionals are not going to be offended by it, I don't think. But I do see your point, and I don't know if it would make any difference at all whether or not we supported this or not, endorsed it.
Michelle?
So I think perception is incredibly important in this day and age, messaging, and the fact that they're standing up and taking a stand on this. What's been shocking is the silence from every elected official about this going on. And I think it's a major major problem in California. So I'm supportive of it, given the other comments about the police. Basically, if they're doing the right thing, they're not going to care. I would suggest that the club and the central committee take, more of a stand on this kind of thing.
Sure. Ian, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sort of disinclined, as you are, to support this simply because one, it has no teeth, and we'd be supporting something. It just makes us look stupid. It makes us look like, yeah, we really don't like it, but we can't do anything about it. The other part of it is, for a very short time in my life, I was a reserve sheriff's deputy in Bexar County, Texas. And the only time folks were allowed to wear masks is if they were on SWAT or they had been undercover and were testifying in court. And that's the only time you need to wear masks. Um, so I'm sort of torn, but again, the fact that we cannot enforce it, it just makes us look like we're like children throwing a tantrum.
Okay. Kathy, you were on mute before you start talking.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I have to disagree with that. I think that somewhere, some way, somehow, we have to stand up and say, excuse me, fine me all you want. Fuck you, assholes. And that's how I feel. So, the fact that people are not standing up and are not showing up, I think I don't care, no teeth or not. We're saying you're wrong. I want to be on the right side of this. And that's how I feel about that. I'm just getting more and more angry. I swear to God that I know my husband's worried I'll be out jumping in front of ice somewhere one of these days soon. But yeah, that's how I feel. I think we have to say you're wrong, you're a jerk. We may not be able to stop it right now, but I think we really have to say, stand up and at least voice something, which is more than because silence is what is the word?
Complicity.
Thank you. I'm an elderly person. Have brain farts, but yeah, I don't want to be silent and complicit with their BS.
Got it, Dave.
I agree completely with Kathy. I think this is largely symbolic, and no, it doesn't affect the feds, and nothing we can pass in the state legislature will affect the feds. It's taking a stand. It's saying this is who we are. This is what we believe, and to the extent that there may be, and there are people in this chat who have worked in law enforcement, so it's not likely. I know I want to let you know I know for sure it's not likely to happen, but to the extent that maybe there is some tiny local jurisdiction that would feel emboldened by what the feds are doing. This would prevent them from doing that. So I support it fully. I think we need to take this stand. Yes, it doesn't affect ICE, but I could imagine other states cropping up and saying the same things about the jurisdictions in their states. And to the extent that that is taking a stand and putting some pressure on, I think it's worth it.
Okay. See, Jacob, go ahead.
I appreciate the conversation that's been had. I'm also disinclined to send a letter of support for the legislation. Again, no teeth, and to me, it feels more performative activism to me, where instead we can be supporting legislation like AB 49, which is with regards to school safety, in regards to immigration enforcement. So I think there's other legislation out there that has more teeth, if you'd like to call it that way. But I would be not in favor of supporting this kind of sending a letter of support for this, because again, it seems very performative in my perspective.
Okay. Dawn, go ahead.
I think the odds are fairly high that this wouldn't actually be stand up as applying to ICE or a federal agency, but on the other hand, it would, as was stated, it would apply to any state or local entity that was participating in a raid. And so I would say that to the extent that we're saying that we in California are going to demand that our law enforcement show their faces, show their badges. I've said before, my biggest fear, especially with all the phony ICE agents committing criminal acts, there is going to come a time when an ICE agent is shot on a raid because someone's going to assume that they are not, in fact, an ICE agent if they're not preparing ID. I mean, that's this nightmare scenario because that gives Trump all the excuses he needs. But I do think that, yes, this is perhaps a little performative, but I think we should support this.
Audra, I'm going to skip over you for 1 second because you did get a turn. Karen, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I tend to, I mean, I agree it's probably not got any teeth for ICE, but I do think it's important to take a stand on it. But I just wanted to caution that if we take a stand, don't tie it specifically to that bill number because the gut and amend stuff you could end up supporting a bill that has absolutely nothing to do with what you wanted to take a stand on. So it should just be we should take a stand on supporting the idea that police officers generally should not be conducting raids behind a mask.
Okay. Audra, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree that we don't want performative stuff. And I don't think anyone here in this group agrees with that or is supportive of ICE or anything. And I agree with Jacob that we need to be looking at what other things can we do that have teeth. What can we do that stands up to ICE and really sends a message. And no, I don't want other agencies, getting the idea that, yeah, they can wear masks and we don't want anyone hurt by other agencies and people, fake actors and things like that. But we want to do something that means something. And no, we don't support ICE at all. I don't think anyone in here does.
Okay. Just so everybody knows, I did include the text of the bill in the chat. So if you are wondering what it actually says and not just my brief summary, there is an actual summary in the chat. So feel free to take a look at that. So because we have multiple opinions, we are going to take a poll. So as of right now, the way that I have it worded is, would you like to endorse SB 627, the No Secret Police Bill? So it does actually have a name. This is a gut and replace bill already. They are going to be voting on it this week, I believe, or through committee this week or something like that. But we don't have much of session left to actually get through. So, Dawn, go ahead. You had information on this, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest to cover Karen's concerns that we say that the language say endorse SB 627 as amended, whatever the current date is on the most recent amendment, so that we are talking about the bill as currently written.
Okay, and so that is as amended 7/9/25. Senate. Okay, sit here. So that will be that specific bill with that specific amendment. I will be going ahead and putting it in the poll. So can I have a motion?
To vote? What's the motion?
So the motion would be to endorse.
Oh.
Did we get a second on that motion, or did we just go straight to discussion?
No,
we haven't even gotten a motion.
Asking for the motion at the time.
We're seeking a motion right now.
Okay, so I will, just to get the vote out there. I move that we endorse Bill 627.
Okay.
I
And
second.
okay, Kathy seconds, and I will go ahead and launch the poll. Okay, give you guys a couple more seconds. And if you haven't voted, vote now or forever hold your peace. Ending poll. Thank you, everybody. And we will go ahead and send a letter of support for this bill. And okay.
If I'm not mistaken, I'm sorry, Julia. I think there is something in committee in front of Congress right now. I can't remember. Is it Ro Khanna? Someone is sponsoring a bill that will affect ICE. That
Okay.
that
I'll look into it
the
for our
federal-
next meeting.
Yeah, and so that Anyway, so
Excellent.
is
Thank
it
you.
likely to pass? Of course not. But yeah,
That doesn't mean we can't support it.
we'll fight the good fight.
Sunny, your hand is raised.
Just a question, as a new member, when you're doing polls, how do you determine what's the bar for something being approved? What percentage, or how does that work here?
50% plus one vote, or over 50% in order to pass, unless it's specified otherwise. There are a couple votes that we have had to do a 2/3 majority. Early endorsements, there was one where I specifically requested that we had to have a high bar. But in general, it's just 50%. It
Thank
just
you.
is a majority. Okay, Dawn, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to ask that the Northern Club also communicate this to the Central Committee and request the Central Committee endorse as the 627.
Okay. Let me write myself a to-do list because we both know I'm not going to remember that. Give me 1 second. Rita, go ahead.
I was just wondering, I haven't been through this process before. Who does the endorsement get sent to?
So,
to the actual legislative committee, or
we would probably send it to the office of the
sponsor?
Senator Wiener, and we would publicly post it on our Facebook and otherwise.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Central Committee. Okay. Okay, there we go. I have a note for me. Dawn, your request is noted, and I will follow through with that in the morning. Okay, now for the rest of, where's my agenda thing? Okay. So that was the club business. So now we are at items from the floor. So Dwayne, you are up. You have 2 minutes, my friend.
If I unmute, I could say thank you. So what I originally wanted to talk about was Princess Washington, council member in Sassoon City, is being attacked for how she is voting in Sassoon City, particularly in regards to the California Forever project. So somebody named, I've got the FPPC complaint, somebody named Veronica King, never heard of her, filed a formal complaint with the Fair Political Practices Commission, alleging that Princess had a conflict of interest. So if you hear anything about this, I just want to point out the conflict that this lady has posed is not it's not straightforward. She misquoted, I think purposefully, misquoted the FPPC rules. So the complaint talks about both financial and public policy conflict of interest. I think, as many of you know, Princess is very active with the Sierra Club, and the Sierra Club has taken an active position against what was California Forever. The FPPC rules are very clear. You only have a conflict of interest if you have a personal financial interest in the game. there is no conflict of interest or public policy. Just think, for example, if a member, one of us on the Central Committee got elected to a local office and then took a position that was consistent with the Northern Solano Dems that might be inconsistent with other members of whatever elected body you're on. I mean, there is no conflict for doing things like that, only for financial. So this is a complaint that'll, I doubt, will see the light of day beyond just being publicly put out there by the complainant. So, and this kind of stuff has been going on a fair bit. And then also hearing that the club will have a presentation by Mayor Hernandez and Vice Mayor Dawson about Sassoon's annexation plans. I think it's only fair if you have a presentation from the folks who are not in favor of the annexation process and the taking a look at expansion of Sassoon City. So I would ask that, if they do a presentation in July, that perhaps the Sierra Club, Solano Together, Orderly Growth Committee, and a whole bunch of us have an equal opportunity shortly after, sometime in August, perhaps.
So
just
Dwayne,
equal time.
I just want you to understand that the reason that they are getting called to the steering committee is because members of this club disagree with the decision that they have made. And the members of this club would like them to answer as to why they voted the way that they did.
Okay.
Because they don't agree with.
Okay,
So that position is
Okay.
going to be fully covered. I promise you. I promise you.
Okay.
So it's not a presentation over that's kind of the reason. So I want to be clear about that.
Okay. I mean, last year there were lots of presentations being made by both sides of the California Forever issue to multiple organizations, including Democratic clubs and and everybody
and we
else.
Voted, and our club voted overwhelmingly against that.
Right.
Which is why we are kind of taking the position that we are.
Okay, fair enough.
So, okay, sounds good. And then next up, we have Jacob Francisco.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry I missed the various things happening within our club. Very, very busy here. Just wanted to share, and I just put this in chat. Assembly Member Wilson, I should clarify. I'm speaking as a member of the public, not as a representative of anyone. That Assemblymember Wilson I've seen is having AD11 at Fairfield City Hall. It's her series of public town halls where she goes throughout the Assembly District 11. The Fairfield one will particularly be August 11th at 1000 Webster Street in Fairfield, California, with check-in time being at 9:30 a.m. There is the RSVP form. Her office highly suggests you fill out the RSVP form to speed up the check-in process the day of. And of course, there are one-on-one meetings that you can have, and they do fill up very fast from what I hear. So if you are interested and you do live in the city of Fairfield, I strongly encourage you to fill out those forms as soon as possible.
Thank you, member of the public, Jacob Francisco. Okay, next on the list, we have Jeanette Wiley.
Thank you for allowing me to just take a minute. We were talking about what we can do to stop what's going on with ICE and immigration. And a couple of years ago, there was the Solano County Rapid Response program. And then it really never got off the ground very much because there wasn't people that were making the calls. So it's once again up and going. And this Wednesday night, the 16th, there will be training for legal observers. And it is going to be in Vacaville, right off of Beelard Drive. And so there is a place to register, and it's with Paul Tice from Vallejo, who had worked on it before. And so if anyone is interested in attending, send me a text and I'll put my phone number in the chat. And then I'll send you this information with the registration. And what the Legal Observer program is, you get called when there's an active raid going on and you're not stopping it. You're not attacking ICE or putting yourself in between ICE and the immigrant, but you're recording it. Like one person's videotaping, one person's documenting what's happening. And so you are seeing what's happening at the time to get a record of it, or you might help family members. But the training on Wednesday night is all about how you would go about doing that or being part of the rapid response system. And then if you go to the training and say, this is not for me, you're under no obligation. But if you go into the training and say, yes, I think I'd be interested in helping out in that way, then you'd put your name on the list or sign up for an additional training. But it's this Wednesday, the 16th, from 6 to 8 at a, they're just not putting that address out so that people would try to be there to cause problems. But there is a registration online, and send me a text and let me know if you're interested or if you have any other questions. That's it.
Marion has a question, and
Yeah, for Jeanette, do you know if there's going to be any others? Because I already signed up for this and then realized that my neighborhood workshop is that same night. I can't not be there. So I want to
Well,
do both.
there probably will be others, but it won't be here in Vacaville. You know, right. So this is the only one that's scheduled for here that I know of.
will it be recorded?
Probably not, but I don't know that for sure. So,
Okay. And then Cass, Jeanette put her phone number in the chat. Just text her and she can get you the address. Okay. And last but definitely not least, Miss Anna Patero.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I just wanted to say, and this is more of a plea. After attending the function on Saturday afternoon, I was so overwhelmed with pride to be a part of such a wonderful group of people. When I looked around the room, that there are hundreds of years of experience in that room. What I also noticed in that room is that we, as a Democratic Party, looks indicative of what our party looks like. We had all of us, there was probably senior citizens, a lot of gray hairs, and we had Muhammad. Two very opposite ends of the spectrum, right? This is also on the macro level. If we look at our leadership, we have Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi on one end, and you have David Hogg on the other. And that's really problematic, and I'm really concerned about that. And what I keep thinking is that I look back for 50 years, the Republican Party were very organized and very well. They did a really good job in their messaging that they were going to overturn Roe v. Wade. From 1973, they slowly but surely infiltrated our local, our state, our federal governments, and then they infiltrated the judiciary system. They did this in 50 years. And now elected officials on the Democratic side went, they won't do that, they won't do that. And they did it. And how many times have you heard that if they tell us what they're going to do, believe them the first time? Evidently, our elected officials didn't believe them. It happened. And look at where we are now. I want to plead, a plea for all of us here, that we have to focus on education. When we graduate stupid people, we get a Donald Trump. We have to focus on education. And if all politics are local, look at what the federal government's done. This president has decided not to honor the $6 billion that's supposed to go passed by Congress, signed into law by President Biden. We're not going to get that money. On our state level, our governor's messing around with Proposition 98. We need people in our schools. We have a lot of retirees here. We have a lot of people with some time. We need people to volunteer in our schools because we have to cut a lot of monies, right? Our teachers and classes are going to be overwhelmed. If there are 35 people in the class, 10 students are going to be left out. We don't want those 10 students to be left out. I'm asking you all, while we're focusing on ICE, there's SB 640 in our state legislature that Christopher Cabaldon has authored to transfer students right out of high school into universities without having to go through the application process. Those are individuals. We have a lot of students who are socioeconomically disadvantaged, students of color who cannot afford to pay those fees to get into college. They can transfer right there. We have great students with great academic standing. Also, AB 49, if we want to focus on immigration, AB 49 that's in the state legislature right now. So I think that our party needs to focus on education on the K through 12 level so we can grow these young people. Also, look right in our own community. We have the Young Democratic Club. These are young people who are Generation Z, our leaders now, right? Can while we're putting all our money into these kinds of clubs, if we could think about donating to their club, $5 a month, to grow that club and grow our young people so we can grow our Democratic Party within our community. So I'm asking you, please, all those brains that were there on Saturday, if we could disperse their, crossing guards, if you can't, spend the time, early morning and the afternoon, be there, be the eyes and ears for our students. If you can volunteer, please do so. And if you have children who are in college who are thinking about teaching or need a job, paraprofessionals in our school districts, we need teaching assistants and we need to educate our children. So I'm pleading with all of us, with all of this brain power, let's grow our community and focus on education. Thank you very much.
Dr. McCullough? You are muted.
But it's regarding endorsement in general and going back to SCOE election, well, SCOE's appointment. May I ask that question? I know that I thought you mentioned that Nikki Parr was interviewed by the steering committee, and we know there's going to be an appointment. Is there any kind of a endorsement or support for those folks for?
I am personally encouraging everybody to go to that meeting to voice their opinions. That being said, we don't really have an endorsement process for the appointment process, mostly due to the fact that it's not as public as elections. We only actually knew the names last month. So it's just harder. We don't have the same lead time that we have with elections to do actual endorsements. But like I said, I am encouraging people to go to that meeting. Dawn, did you have something?
Yeah, as you said, we don't have a process for endorsements, and I would also point out that the other two candidates who've been forwarded for consideration are registered Democrats as well. So our process would have required us to invite them and appear
Were they
and be
interviewed?
fair.
Were they interviewed?
No, I have not actually. I have no contact information for either one of them.
I just wanted to know where we stood on the 5 candidates, if any position.
So I can give you the 5 candidates, who they are. Give me 1 second. Let me open that back up.
It is Manolo Garcia and Brian Dolan.
There's
are the other two that have been forwarded to for consideration.
No, there's going to be 5 interviews on on
29th.
the 23rd. There are 2 people that went through the interview process. They were considered qualified, but they were not recommended by the ad hoc committee. So those 2 candidates will also be considered during that process. I just sent it to you.
Thank you.
I'm assuming so, since he's the only Brian Dolan in Solano lives in Dixon.
Yes, Brian Dolan does live in Dixon. I know that.
So I would presume he's, as Rita said, was the former superintendent.
Oh, yes. And then Manolo Garcia used to be a principal at Markham. He is now an HR head at SCO. That is what I know about him. The other 2 I do not actually know anything about.
Thank you.
But let me go get those names so that you can at least have that. Okay. Here you go. These are the recommendations. So it is Brian Dolan, Manolo Garcia, Nicola Parr as the 3 people that were recommended by the ad hoc committee. Stella Kemp and Micah Stutter were considered qualified, but not recommended.
Thank you.
So all 5 candidates will be interviewed on the 23rd. The decision will be made that night. So if you have an opinion or would like to have an opinion, I do recommend that everybody go to that meeting. You can watch via Zoom, but I am not sure that you can comment. I don't think you can. It is likely to also be a long meeting. Okay. And going back to our agenda, that is all of our items from the floor. It's less of an announcement, but it's something I would like to talk about just very, very briefly. I was sent I'm gonna hesitate to call this an article, but it's information from a couple different from a Facebook group twice in one day. And it's regarding the lawsuit of the sheriff, the judge, and Assemblymember Wilson. As much as we would like to hold our elected officials accountable when they're doing something we don't agree with, I would also like to take a moment to defend one of our elected officials when what they're being accused of is silly. What Assemblymember Wilson is being accused of is that she did not exert political power to stop a sale of land that was defaulted on its taxes. It was requested because they felt the paperwork was incorrect. She was aware of the situation. She asked the sheriff if he had his papers in order. He said yes. Quite frankly, she does not hold an oversight position over the sheriff of Solano County. She does not hold a position of power over anybody in Solano County. She is a legislator at the state. She can obviously use her political power as she sees fit, but having her just willy-nilly use political influence to do something like that, I think all of us would have thought was inappropriate. So if you see this, can you please at least read the actual court filings? They don't even have a lawyer. They are filing this all on their own. They're using a lot of scary words like racketeering, but this is a civil lawsuit and you can name anybody in a civil lawsuit. They've already had to amend it twice. So I would encourage everybody to take a look, see what they're actually saying. And quite frankly, throwing around Lori Wilson's name like that when she didn't do anything is wildly inappropriate. So
For what it's worth, this is the same group or the same family that attempted to sue Skip Thompson for essentially the same thing. Oh gosh, 14 years ago.
Thank you for the comments because I've been getting sort of secret texts and I just needed to know more.
I actually went through and read the lawsuit because I got sent this thing twice and it was like, well, the DNC won't owns the Daily Republic, which it was a shock to me, and is in Lori Wilson's pocket, and I was like, oh well, I'm sure she would be surprised to hear that. So yeah, so I did read it. It's full of a lot of claims, but against Lori, it's truly that she didn't exert oversight over the sheriff, which she does not have the authority to do.
Okay.
That's what their claim boils down to. So I can share the link of what they're sending out, but give me 1 second. I'll put it in the chat later. Does anybody else have an announcement? I am not seeing hands. Oh, Dwayne?
Just real quick. So this this whole lawsuit thing has been going on for a couple of decades, I think, in total, as we heard 14 years ago with Skip. And the folks that are involved are pretty unsavory. So anything that they put out is pretty suspect in terms of being forthright and honest. I mean, the Sassoon Marsh leadership has been embroiled in all kinds of stuff, as well as BCDC and a bunch of others, and it's just a bizarre situation. So yeah, Lori should. This is just crazy. Lori should never be attacked for this.
And quite frankly, they're using Lori's picture as their like headline for the post, and which is
Yes.
unfair. And I mean, like, I'm trying to share it. That is the news site. Anyway, so I am not seeing any other hands. It's already 8:30. Wait, did I see a hand? Rita.
Hard time sometimes finding that react button.
You're
For
good.
some reason, it doesn't pop up. I just wanted to say, thank you to all the people who attend. I always feel like one of the things that's very easy is to sit and complain, but to offer solutions, that's what's really positive. That's what gets you going in the morning. That's what gets me going. Figuring out ways to solve the problems that we're facing right now, which are just insurmountable. They're horrible. The things that are done, and like Anna said, let's work locally. That's where we can really make a difference. We can make a difference here locally, with our local governments, our school districts, our county officials, and find out what's going here, because that's what the Republicans have been doing since Reagan went into office. They've been doing it for that long, and we need to have that groundwell. We need that grassroots effort to get things done and to move us into a positive role again. I can get so discouraged sometimes sitting here going, I did not expect the last years of my life to be living in this kind of hellhole. But then again, I think of people who have been dealing with this for centuries, who have been fighting this kind of racism, homophobia, xenophobia, misogyny, all the bad things you can mention. So I can do this. This is something that needs to be done. We need to stand up every time something negative happens. And that's what I feel about this group. There's so much positive energy here. I just wanted to let you know that. So thanks for letting me share.
May I also just thank Anna so much for helping us to focus on the situation going on in education.
Don, you have your hand up?
Yeah, there are a lot of things coming at us fast and furious. There's a lot of work to be done. And it's going to be a marathon, not a sprint. So I'm just going to start putting this out there. Encourage you all to start planning for the mid and long term on your rest breaks, your vacations, your what have you. Because I will say I will be selfish and be very annoyed at anyone who plans a vacation in October of 2026. I expect you to be all rested and ready to help us win the elections then. So plan your vacations around the chaos that's going on, and
don't forget to
do the self-care that you need to do so that as we engage in these actions, we are working smartly and effectively and not burning ourselves and each other out. So thank you all.
Primaries in June. Don't take that off either. I'm just saying, island in July and then get back here.
Some of us have long since learned to plan our vacations around election cycles, so it's second nature. I'm just saying it for the rest of us.
Okay, I am not seeing any other hands, so if you would like to call for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
I think everybody's in agreement. We're done, guys. Thank you all so much. I know this was a long one, but I am, as ever, always proud to be one of you.